Hello and welcome to Vidhammer, the battle report resource for Warhammer Fantasy. In this video we'll be covering the final match of the Anthem Games tournament held in Tampa in November of 2011. This is a 2,500 point battle line matchup between the Vampire Counts and the Ogre Kingdoms using the 8th edition rules. The terrain pieces consist of 2 hills and 2 forests in opposing corners and a marsh in the center of the table. All forest types are unknown until a unit enters it. The Vampire Counts won the roll for placement and elected to have the Ogres place first. At the start of the video, there are 2 saber tusks in play on the right and left wings of the Ogres battle line. The Vampire Counts have a single unit of 35 ghouls placed on the rear edge of the hill in the lower right of the screen. The Vampires place a second unit of 35 ghouls next to the first, and the Ogres respond by placing their unit of 9 Ogre Bulls in the center of their battle line. The Vampires place a unit of 36 Graveguard with great weapons on the far right of the battle line, and the Ogres place a unit of 7 Iron Guts next to the Ogre Bulls. A bunker of 20 skeletons comes into play for the Vampires, and the Ogres place a unit of 3 Lead Belchers on the back side of their hill. 35 more ghouls make up the final unit for the Vampires, prompting the Ogres to place their Manfred unit, which is a stand-in for a Thunder Tusk, behind the unit of Iron Guts. The Vampire General and a level 1 Vampire are placed in the Skeleton Bunker, while a White King Battle Standard Bearer goes in with the Graveguard. For the Ogres, 3 Mournfang Cavalry and an Iron Blaster are placed behind the hill next to the Lead Belchers in the upper left corner. A Slaughtermaster sits with the Iron Guts, while a Battle Standard Bearer and Firebelly go in with the Ogre Bulls. After normal placement, the Ogres place a unit of 4 Man-Eater Scouts that go slightly behind the far right end of the Vampire Count's battle line. In spell generation, the level 1 Vampire gets Gaze of Nagash, and also knows the signature spell Invocation of Nehek. The Vampire General has Forbidden Lore, so he knows all of the vampire spells. For the Ogres, the Firebelly gets Firestorm, while the Slaughtermaster ends up with Bone Crusher, Bull Gorger, Tooth Cracker, and Spine Marrow. The Vampire Counts win the starting roll and move their battle line forward, keeping their original formation. In the Magic phase, both of the Vampire casters have Master of the Dark Arts, giving them 4 additional power dice. After Winds of Fate, the Vampires have 9 power dice against 4 Dispel dice. Their first spell attempt is Gaze of Nagash at the Man-Eaters, but the spell is dispelled. The Vampire General has Summon Ghouls, so a successful casting of Summon Undead Horde bolsters the far right unit of ghouls by 9 models. The resulting irresistible backlash lowers the Vampire General's level by 1, and he loses the Summon Undead Horde spell. The level 1 Vampire casts Invocation of Nehek to add another 4 ghouls to the far right unit. The Ogres move up their Saber Tusk units, and the Lead Belchers take a position on the hill while the Mournfang Cavalry move into flanking position on the large ghoul unit. The Iron Guts, Ogre Bulls, and Thunder Tusk move toward the left side of the marsh, and the Man-Eaters move into position for a rear charge on the rightmost ghoul unit. Winds of Fate and Channeling gives the Ogres 4 power dice against 4 Dispel dice. They cast Bone Crusher on the Graveguard unit, but due to a 4+ regeneration save, no wounds are caused. They attempt to cast Tooth Cracker on the Ogre Bull unit, but it gets dispelled. For shooting, the Lead Belchers hit the large ghoul unit for 1 wound, and the Iron Blaster takes out 4 more. The Thunder Tusk Catapult drifts onto the Graveguard, taking out 1 model, and the Bolt Thrower misses. In the second turn, the Vampires charge the upper Saber Tusk with their large ghoul unit. The Graveguard step into the swamp, while the lower ghoul units move forward and the Skeleton Bunker does its best to avoid the Man-Eaters. In the Magic phase, the Vampires get 8 power dice against 4 Dispel dice. They attempt Van Hell's Dance Macabre on the Graveguard, but it gets dispelled. They cast it a second time successfully, and the Graveguard move into combat with the Ogre Bulls, taking 9 casualties from dangerous terrain. The vampires try to use their Staff of Damnation, but the Ogres get an irresistible force on the Dispel. In close combat, the Slaughtermaster takes a wound in a challenge with the White King, which takes 2 wounds in return. The Graveguard hit for 11 wounds on the Ogres, who take out 2 Graveguard in retaliation. The Ogres lose the combat and fail their break test. The Graveguard cut down the Ogres as they flee and overrun into the flank of the Iron Guts, with 2 more Graveguard being pulled into the swamp. In the upper combat, the Saber-Tusk gets taken down after eating 2 ghouls. The rest of the unit overruns into the Iron Guts. On the Ogre's turn, the large ghoul unit is charged in the front by the Leadbelchers, the Mournfang Cavalry charge the flank, and the Man-Eaters hit the unit's rear. A Thundertusk joins in the fun, hitting the Graveguard in the flank as well. The lower Saber-Tusk offers himself up to the lower ghoul unit, and the Iron Blaster sets up on the hill for a juicy flank shot. For the magic phase, the Ogres get 8 power dice against 5 dispel dice, but with the loss of the Slaughtermaster, they only have the Firestorm spell remaining, which they elect not to cast. In the shooting phase, the Iron Blaster shoots for the flank of the ghoul units, falling into the first unit for 7 kills. At the start of the cataclysmic 6-unit melee, the Man-Eaters pop their Dragonhide banner. The resultant breath weapon attack hits the ghouls for 2 wounds and causes them to always strike last. The ghouls take 6 wounds from the impact hits of the Man-Eaters, Mournfang Cavalry, and Iron Belchers. The ghouls take another 7 wounds from the normal Mournfang attack, 1 from the Iron Belchers, 14 from the Man-Eaters, and 2 from the Ogre Bulls. The Graveguard take 2 wounds from the Ogre Bulls, but nothing from the Thundertusk. In the simultaneous portion, the stomps from the Ogres clear out 2 more ghouls and a couple of Graveguard, and the Ogre BSB cuts down 2 ghouls as well. In retaliation, the Graveguard hit the Ogre Bulls for 19 wounds, and the remaining ghouls chalk up 2 themselves. The vampires lose the combat and another 15 Graveguard in combat resolution. The 2 remaining members from the Ogre Bull unit reform to face the Graveguard. The vampires charge the Thundertusk with their upper ghoul unit, and they charge the Saber-Tusk with their lower ghoul unit. The Saber-Tusk flees into the Venom Thicket, and it takes a wound from the terrain, which didn't matter since the ghouls caught it and were apparently too excited to take a terrain check. In the magic phase, the vampires end up with 11 power dice against 6 dispel dice. Their first attempt at invocation of Nehek is dispelled. The second brings back 3 Graveguard. The Staff of Damnation succeeds, and the Graveguard put a wound on the Firebelly and 3 on the BSB, while the ghouls hit the Thundertusk for 7 wounds, but Manfred fails all of his saves. Another casting of Invocation brings back 3 more Graveguard, and the final power die fails on the last invocation attempt. The battery ran out at this point, but we were able to reenact the remaining turns to bring you the following dramatic conclusion. In close combat, the White King issues a challenge and the Ogre BSB accepts. The BSB takes 2 wounds, saving the first, but dying to the next. The Flamebelly gets a wound on the Graveguard with his breath weapon, and 1 more from his normal attacks, but he takes 4 wounds in return and joins his Ogre brethren. On the Ogre's turn, the Man-Eaters get their big charge off on the Graveguard, while the Mournfang Cavalry and Iron Belchers try to move around the side. The Ogres have no casters left, so the magic phase is quite easy. In the shooting phase, the Iron Belchers take out a skeleton from the bunker, and the Iron Blaster hits it for 5 more. For close combat, the Man-Eaters get 3 kills on the Graveguard from impact hits. The Man-Eater champion issues a challenge and takes 2 wounds from the White King without giving any in return. The rest of the Man-Eaters kill off 3 more Graveguard before taking 5 wounds in return. The Ogres stomp on a single Graveguard in anger, and 2 more faint as combat resolution kicks in. In the 4th turn, the ghouls charge the flank of the Man-Eaters as the skeletons continue their goose chase around the melee. The ghouls in the lower forest wheel and lose 3 models now that they've decided to take a terrain check. The magic phase sees the vampires with 7 power dice against 2 dispel dice. 2 successful casts of Invocation bring back 10 Graveguard just in time to use the Staff of Damnation. The ghouls get 2 wounds on the Man-Eaters, while the Graveguard kill off the Banner Bearer and the White King hits the unit champion for a single wound. Another Invocation heals the White King for a single wound to end the phase. In close combat, the unit champion wills himself to death as the Leadbelchers panic and run. The Leadbelchers quickly rally on the Ogre's turn and face what's left of the battle. The cavalry make a swift reform and move up next to the Graveguard. The Iron Blaster gets a full flank shot off on the close ghoul unit and takes out 10 ghouls. In turn 5, the Graveguard do a swift reform to face the cavalry. The upper ghouls turn towards the Iron Blaster, and the lower ghouls march out of the forest without taking any wounds, and the skeletons continue to look for a backbone. In the magic phase, the vampires get 12 power dice against 5 dispel dice. Invocation of Nehek brings back 2 more Graveguard, followed by Van Hel's moving the Graveguard into combat with the cavalry. Another Invocation brings back 4 more Graveguard just in time for the Staff of Damnation, where the Graveguard are able to do 9 wounds, killing off the cavalry. 2 more Invocations bring back a single Graveguard and heal 1 wound on the White King. The Ogres hold their ground and shoot at the Graveguard, taking out 6 models purely out of spite by this point. In the final turn, the upper ghouls charge the Iron Blaster, and the Graveguard attempt a swift reform, but fail and just turn toward the Iron Belchers. In the magic phase, the vampires bring back 5 ghouls and try to dance the Graveguard into combat with the Iron Belchers, but the first attempt is dispelled, and the second fails, ending the phase. In the fight with the Iron Blaster, the ghouls cause a single wound and take 2 in return, but due to the rank bonus, they win the combat. The Iron Blaster fails its leadership test and runs, but the ghouls can't catch it. The celebration for the Iron Blaster is short-lived as it continues to flee off of the board in the next round. The Leadbelchers take a parting shot at the Graveguard for 4 wounds, but they are all saved. The fate of the Iron Belchers was not to be known, but it probably involved blaming each other for getting into this mess. Thanks for watching this battle report. Be sure to check back for more videos each week. Do us a favor and subscribe, and as always, send us a message if you have any tactics or matchups that you'd like to see. Till next time from the Vidhammer crew, keep fighting.